All right, the 2026 Super Bowl in the United States of America will be held in the San Francisco area on February 8th. And this is the official logo that they released. And you can see here that it prominently features the Golden Gate Bridge as well as the Twin Pines. And we'll come back to all of that later. But just recently they announced that Bad Bunny was going to headline the halftime show at this Super Bowl in San Francisco. Obviously, the first thought that comes to mind in the context of the subconscious sorcery that is taking place through all of these news stories and events is the Bad Bunny, quote unquote, from Donnie Darko. This is the necessary villain in the plot that ends up correcting the tangent universe that split off from the main timeline when Donnie was not in his bed, when the plane engine fell in his room. I assume all of you guys listening are familiar with the Donnie Darko tie-in to Donald Trump and 9/11. So I'm not going to go too deep into that other than state the obvious, just in case it's your first time listening. Donnie is referring to Donald, and the dark O is referring to an eclipse. And this is because Donald Trump was born under a total lunar eclipse blood moon. He is the moon child, or in the context of Donnie Darko, he is the killing moon. And the opening of the film is a storm. They give you the sound of thunder rumbling. And then the end of the film, when the tangent universe is being resolved, there is imagery of a big storm, tornado looking like clouds. It does give you this imagery of a collapsing dimension, almost the end of the world. I think this is what Donald Trump is referring to in that infamous clip I played a couple videos ago, where he's referring to the storm and they ask him, what's that really about? And he says, you'll find out. Well, that's what he's ultimately referring to. It's the storm that is the collapse of a tangent universe, which was created through the 9/11 2001 ritual sacrifice. That event, as it played out, split the mind. A new altar was created in that moment that flipped forward. It was trauma induced. And that is what the film is depicting, with the plane engine being the catalyst for this creation of the tangent universe. That involves Donnie, you see. And he has to go back to where he was in order to close the loop. And that is the culmination of this ritual that we are witnessing right now via Donald Trump's second term, which is the second plane hitting the tower. And then there is the controlled demolition, which is the end of the world, at least as the metaphor goes with this film. The end of the tangent universe, which is the old mind that was connected to nature, right? This is the new mind that has been leaped into a new dimension, virtual reality. It's a form of time travel, sort of. The way the mind perceives reality in virtual reality is much different than it exists when it's connected to all the natural vibrations and frequencies that exist within the cavity of the earth, such as the Schumann resonance. These natural standing wave frequencies that our brains are designed to fuse with and be informed by. And all of this technology disrupts that. Just in general, the Wi-Fi, the electricity, all of that being in that soup constantly disrupts the natural vibration that your body is supposed to be aligned with. And then on top of that, you're sitting in that energy and you're staring into these screens, and your neuroplastic brain is rewiring itself, creating a tangent reality almost, a parallel dimension. And that is the altar that is slowly flipping forward in the terms of mind control language. Trauma-based mind control that creates the altar that flips forward and then it flips back. after the keywords and phrases or whatever the trigger is used. And the person is unaware that it's going on. Well, that's us. Slowly we're being triggered over and over again through the trauma events on the screen. We're sucked into the devices more and more over time. Yeah, sure, we put them down and we go do other things, but then we come back. And over again, this is resulting in the formation of the alter that will ultimately take over the mind fully when it is a total singularity fusion of mind, body, soul with the technology. So the bad bunny in Donnie Darko is conducting the ritual. In a sense, right? As they describe it, it's a necessary villain that's needed to correct the timeline. So he foreshadows a lot of future events to the character Donnie, who is Donald Trump. And that is metaphorically what they are doing through the character Donald Trump in actual reality itself. I said that was going to be a quick summary, and once you get started, it's hard to stop yourself. My apologies to those of you who have heard this many times before. So no coincidence that Bad Bunny is named to be the halftime entertainment at the Super Bowl that will be played in San Francisco with the Golden Gate Twin Pines imagery associated with it. Because this ritual metaphorically is also all about opening the Golden Gate, which is this portal into the new dimension. Symbolically. Naturally, then, it is associated with the Golden Gate Bridge and all of the subconscious sorcery programming associated Donald Trump with 88 and the Golden Gate Bridge, the Twin Pines, Back to the Future, which again is a similar story about parallel realities branching off from the main timeline that need to be resolved. And that is what they show you at the end of the Back to the Future films. It's the DeLorean flying directly into the screen, which are your eyes. And in that moment, your eyes are fusing with this new dimension, symbolically. That's the underlying message that the conscious mind does not perceive in the moment. They show you this very clearly in the scene where Donnie is with Frank the Rabbit in a movie theater where a portal opens through the screen. Okay? That's the whole thing right there. What I just described in Back to the Future is happening in this scene as well. And they show you the eclipse right up here. This is Donnie Darko. Darko, the moon eclipsing the sun. Donnie Darko, Donald Trump, is the moon child. They are using his character to orchestrate the creation of this new reality. Project Stargate, Operation Warp Speed. COVID-19, The Space Needle, 2001: A Space Odyssey, 9/11. It's one big loop, just like all these time travel films. And in terms of the symbolic programming, his character will resolve the timelines that branched off after September 11, 2001, in terms of what that meant symbolically. With that monolith screen at ground zero, which is your eyes fusing with this technology. Or new alter, however you want to describe it. There's so many different ways you can describe it. But they very clearly show you the portal opening through the screen, surrounded by a clock. Which is exactly what happens, like I was saying, when you become immersed in this technology. Time dilates. It's a form of time travel. The fabric of reality itself changes. The portal opens through the screen. Same way they show it to you in Back to the Future when all of the DeLorean time travels are near screens. Now, Bad Bunny has an album titled Oasis. Everything else is in Spanish for the most part. I was very interested to see that this was the one album that was an English word I recognized. So if you speak Spanish out there and you're listening to this, we could use your help looking into some of this stuff and just see what his discography is all about. But remember that Oasis is what the virtual world in Ready Player One is called. And that whole film centers around the idea of obtaining this holy grail in the form of an Easter egg, which is the context of video games, how that kind of thing would be described. So that's how they portray it in the film, this thing that you're seeking, because they're using the video game terminology. But it's the Holy Grail, essentially, the way it's depicted. And remember that this entire film is focused on how this pop culture is doing what I just described, how I just broke down Donnie Darko. That's the first two stages, and then the final stage is they have to play this Atari console and find the hidden Easter egg in that game in order to unlock the Holy Grail or get access to it and win the game. And that Atari console was released on September 11th, 1977. Which, again, is the idea I just went into about how playing that console, metaphorically, you are unlocking the key that will then give you access to this new virtual reality, this Oasis. You gain control of it. But that's how they portray it in the film. It's really getting at the same idea of you are sucked into the portal. The pupil black eye fuses with the screen. It's a black hole in that way. It pulls you in, and you cannot escape at a certain point. That's what I just got into about Snake Eyes and the ruby that's trapped in the concrete, which is this subconscious programming, and it cannot escape. It can't click its heels together and go home any longer. So I hope you see through Ready Player One, they're showing their programming winning. They're always inverting these things, but you don't realize it because it's a quote-unquote happy ending where the good guys win. But subconsciously, they are showing the success of this propaganda and the end result, which is your total immersion into this stuff. You lose your connection to that which created you through the process, and you fully give yourself to this thing. So Bad Bunny has an Oasis album. He's going to be the halftime entertainment at this Super Bowl ritual. That is a part of the larger Donald Trump ritual, which of course is a part of the larger controlled demolition of the US ritual, which metaphorically is the controlled demolition of the mind ritual. On and on it goes, right? Which then ultimately is what I got into in the last video as well. It's the Snake Eyes ritual. That entity in the Garden of Eden that gave its eyes, its sight, to the first human beings, and they fell into a lower dimension. Now, this is where it gets pretty crazy and also very blatant. The plot of Donnie Darko begins on October 2nd, 1988. Donnie is awakened from his sleep by a strange voice and led out onto a golf course where he converses with a life-size, demonic-looking rabbit named Frank, who tells him that the world will end in 28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, and 12 seconds. Donnie then falls asleep after being told this. After waking up on the golf course the next morning, Donnie returns home to discover that a huge jet engine has fallen from the sky and into his bedroom. And the 88s here are referencing the analemmas, which is the path of the moon and the sun in the sky if you time-lapse the photography. They form these little 8-looking patterns. So it's an 88, the sun and the moon dancing together. And this is Donald Trump, the moon child, in the context of this programming. So the end of the world adds up to 88, and the plot begins in the year 1988. They infuse that 88 into it, and of course that's where the 88 miles per hour comes from in Back to the Future. This idea of time travel or traveling into a different dimension where the fabric of time is altered comes from. It's sending your mind through the screen into this new virtual reality, this new dimension. And through that process, everything you're learning that they are giving you alters your eyes, and you are given the snake eyes. Speaking of which, just a little bit of trivia. The actor who played Frank the Rabbit was born on September 10th, the same day that Charlie Kirk was assassinated. So you can go through the whole plot and see that this bad bunny is orchestrating the whole thing, giving these nudges and visions to the Donnie character and leading him to resolve the tangent universe that could destroy the whole thing if it's not resolved properly. And again, that's a metaphor for what they are doing, right? If they don't do this correctly and lead it just the right way, it could destroy the mind forever, right? It would make people lose themselves entirely in a way that couldn't be controlled anymore. It would be the metaphorical destruction of the whole world. So in the context of all of that, especially the October 2nd date in Donnie Darko, there is this story that comes out in late September after the Bad Bunny announcement that Donald Trump is threatening the Super Bowl halftime show with ICE agents. This has been a theme for a while now. Donald Trump associated with ICE and the border and getting a handle on the unchecked immigration into the country. Now we get an idea of why this was intentionally scripted the way that it was, to have ICE involved in this, because in the movie Donnie Darko, a piece of ice refers to the jet engine that falls from the sky and crashes into Donnie's bedroom, which he calls blue ice, or a hunk of blue ice. Think about what they're doing there, okay? The plane engine, which is the 9/11 ritual, who Donald Trump is the personification of in the actual real world, is ice. That's what Donnie refers to it as. And then, on October 1st, Pope Leo blessed a block of ice taken from a melting glacier on October 1st, 2025, at an event near Rome, marking the 10th anniversary of Pope Francis's climate encyclical. First of all, the melting glacier was taken from Greenland. That's not an accident, of course, because Greenland is the Emerald City, okay? It's the land of Oz. And remember all that stuff with J.D. Vance and his wife going to Greenland when that was in the news earlier this year? And they were there during the twin sunrise eclipse, evoking the whole ritual in that one trip. So the glacier is from Greenland. It's focusing on climate change, which is all about reducing carbon, and this is the same idea, right? The carbon in our bodies is changing. The climate is changing, in other words. This is referring to us. Yeah, sure, things are going on in the actual world too, but it's metaphorically that at its core. This is a picture of it. The Blessing of the Waters by Pope Leo XIV. And you can see here they have an actual block of ice that the Pope walks over to and blesses. Do you see what he's blessing now in the context of Donnie Darko and the blue ice? I mean, they quite literally put it on a blue platform for you, to leave no doubt. It's blue ice, a big hunk of ice from Greenland. Oz 77. That is the plane engine that fell on 9/11 into Donnie's room. And Donnie metaphorically escapes, and he plays out this twin tower controlled demolition ritual through his 2 presidential terms, which is mirroring the controlled demolition in New York on September 11, 2001, just in reality itself as it relates to the country. And the Pope from Chicago, Air Jordan, right? he blesses this piece of ice on October 1st in Rome, and then it's all over the news on the next day, so that it's October 2nd that they're reporting it, so that it's the same day that the tangent universe is created in Donnie Darko. He was joined on stage by actor and former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, who watched as Leo placed his hand on a large chunk of ice taken from a melting glacier in Greenland. And of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger is most famous for playing the Terminator in the franchise that's all about AI taking over and time travel. Do you see how it's the whole thing? Of course Arnold Schwarzenegger was randomly in Rome for this, quote unquote, to the randomly. Of course. And in Batman and Robin, tying in the Dark Knight and the Batman angle to this whole ritual, he plays Mr. Freeze. And speaking of freezing, what happens to the DeLorean after it travels through time? It's frozen. It hits 88 miles per hour, it travels through time, and then it's frozen. Hopefully you can see how this was a massive ritual conducted by the Pope and Donald Trump, in the sense that the Ice Bad Bunny story was very carefully scripted, leading into the very carefully scripted blessing of this hunk of ice, as that relates to the larger ritual involving Donnie Darko, where the blue ice plane engine falls into his bedroom and kicks off the tangent universe, which metaphorically is this propaganda in your mind. And that's why the mega ritual that was 9/11 coincided with the introduction of the internet and this technology on a wide scale. And then the additional angle to the Bad Bunny thing is obviously the whole follow the white rabbit rhetoric that comes from Alice in Wonderland. And what is Alice? It's Al Ice. You see, there's the ice as it relates to the bunny or the rabbit that she follows. And in the context of that story, it's all a dream. Just like it is in The Matrix, which of course is giving you the same idea. Follow the white rabbit to escape the Matrix. They're all asleep, dreaming something that they're unaware of. And metaphorically, you see, that's what this is. We might as well be in a waking dream. We're all asleep. We're walking around awake, quote unquote, but we're really dreaming because we're under the influence of this programming. In that context, we are being shown certain things to, quote unquote, wake up. But that was coordinated just like it was in The Matrix for them to have this Neo character that was the awakening. That was a necessary part of their system that they did a bunch of times, over and over again. It's the same thing now. That's what's being done to us. This is the storm that Donald Trump was referring to. You'll see, meaning you will literally see it because it's your eyes. It's the end of a world, the collapse of a dimension, a parallel reality, a new timeline emergence, a new reality, age, however they want to refer to it. I mean, they usually say new aeon or age, something like that. And interestingly, at the same time that all of this was going on, you had yesterday 2 Delta planes ran into each other on a runway, and one of them had its wing chopped off, almost. According to this article from CBS, he said it sounded like a sardine can opening, like something was being sheared off, and lo and behold, we looked at the right side of the plane, and the wing looked like it was almost like off the plane, which is exactly what happened in Donnie Darko. You see, the one wing fell off, and the one engine falls into Donnie's bedroom, which creates the tangent reality or universe. It was like a sardine can opening, right? It's like a portal opening. Do you see the coded language there? As it relates to this larger ritual. And this Super Bowl ritual is going to tie right into the March 3rd blood moon total lunar eclipse, just 3 weeks, a little bit more than that, after the actual Super Bowl takes place. Which makes sense based on what we've seen with these blood moons as it relates to things transpiring in terms of this Moonchild ritual. Like, for example, the one that just transpired September 7th to the 8th, 2 days before Charlie Kirk was assassinated, the turning point in this ritual. So, of course, this Super Bowl was decided to be held in San Francisco decades ago to coincide with the Golden Gate programming. The Golden Gate Bridge will be front and center at this event, as it's symbolically related to the Golden Gate opening, which is the opening of this new dimension, the return of the Messiah figure that opens the new dimension, creates the new reality, saves the world, ending the old one. And along those lines, the president does this every year at Easter, but this particular Easter, the last one, Pope Francis had just died, and Francis got his name from San Francisco, where the Golden Gate Bridge is. So you have Francis being tributed while Donald Trump is standing next to a bunny. Because he is the bad bunny. He's the Golden Gate. He's the bad bunny. Follow the white rabbit. I mean, that is what everyone who follows his movement is doing, right? They're following into this fake scripted awakening from their perspective, and everyone else is viewing the aftermath, becoming deranged by it, and seeing this collapse of the dimension play out in real time. The jet engine that falls from the sky is referred to by Donnie as blue ice, or a hunk of blue ice. The engine is a manifestation of a space-time paradox in a temporary or tangent universe. The first song that plays as that thunder starts rolling and the storm is beginning is The Killing Moon by Echo and the Bunnymen. Donald Trump is metaphorically the killing moon. He's the blood moon. Which is why so much of this is scripted around these cosmic events relating to the sun and the moon. It's a hunk of blue ice. Pope Leo blesses a block of ice on October 1st. In America, where this is all taking place with Donald Trump, all of the news articles are talking about it the next day on Thursday, October 2nd, the same day that the plot of Donnie Darko begins. So I wonder, is this the start of the countdown to the quote-unquote end of the world? Metaphorically, of course. I'm not talking literally here. Is that the ritual that we just witnessed unfold? The start of that clock? Alice following the white rabbit down the rabbit hole, right? The bad bunny. I don't know, just something to think about, but that's all I got for now. Talk to you guys later. Peace.